Well, Simon, it's good to see you again, and it's been nice to have a little bit of a catch up. And we've got our session coming up now. So I think it's going to be the fourth one we've had talking around this topic of your coaching business. So, what's today's topic you want to look at?
Yeah, morning, Charlie. So I guess it sounds a bit vague, a bit general, but for me, the topic is kind of what next for me in terms of my coaching business and trying to um, make coaching a bigger part of what I do, really, in terms of my work. So, yeah, what next, really?
And what next from what point, from what perspective?
As in from where I am now, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess. I'm in sort of year two almost of a very sort of conscious attempt uh, to create a bit of a career sidestep. And year one last year was getting qualified mainly, and getting my ILM level seven. And towards the end of the year one, was setting up my own business, which is River Coaching, putting together the website and starting to put out feelers as to whether anyone might be interested and how I might be able to get work. And alongside that, it was also in year one was also me moving jobs and taking a 3 day a week, sort of quite a small role in a local school as a tutor to sort of go hand in hand with that to give me some sort of security. So this is year two, and I'm still working in that school, and I've had I'm working. Doing a paid contract now, which in a different local school, which is fantastic, and coaching for senior leaders or aspiring senior leaders in local school, um, which is brilliant. I'm also doing a little bit of pro bono coaching for another senior leader in a different school. And since we last spoke, I have been putting out inquiries to, I think I'm now up to 15 other schools locally, and going through that process of yeah, just gauging interest and seeing if there might be the possibility of coaching in those schools. Um, Also, just fulfilling the coaching program which I've been engaged for, which has been going really, really well. Continuing to do a little bit of reading around coaching for my own skills. So I'm still reading at the moment the Nancy Klein book, Time to Talk, which I'm enjoying. But yeah, I guess now the feeling for me is I'm already starting to look forward to next year, which will be year three, and just thinking, where am I going? Where am I hoping to get to? Do I need to be just a bit more patient? Because after that, the sort of excitement of the first contract coming in, which I sort of was sorted out at the tail end of last year, beginning of this year, I guess a little bit of a lull where I've just had, understandably, sort of not everyone you email is going to say yes, here's lots of money and we don't really need it, but come and coach our teachers. So yeah, I guess it's a few tips maybe from you in terms of strategy. Do I just need to maybe reach out and do a bit of pro bono coaching, which would be no bad thing for lots of reasons? Um, do I need a different sort of tactic in terms of marketing, maybe? So yeah, kind of what next? What are some good tips or some advice for what I might do next?
Okay, so on the specifics end, so this isn't necessarily about you and your coaching skills and your coaching approach. This is about client acquisition and about getting the business consolidated. Is that right, or is it something else?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So some of your ideas and a couple of nuggets from me as well. And where do you want to be on this topic by the time we get to 10 o'clock?
Um, yeah, I think by 10 o'clock, I think I would like to have just had the chance to talk through some of those ideas, and I know I overuse this word a lot, but I love it. Just some clarity about what I'm going to do next, so that I'm pointing in the right direction. And in my head, I'm really clear about, yeah, actually, the next sort of three things that I need to do are this, this, and this. And I totally understand why, and I'm totally kind of just motivated and excited to go away and do that.
Okay, so it's two things, isn't it? So the clarity, and but then also the motivation, also the drive to go and do it in those days when people aren't sending emails back requesting blank contracts.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think the motivation's a huge issue. I think generally um, once I sort of figure out in my own head what my next three priorities are, I think the clarity will just the motivation is there ready to go. It'll just then be sort of hooked on once I've got those kind of clear aims.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. So you don't have to worry about the motivation, it's about the clarity. And right now, how clear do you feel if 10 is like full Gladys Knight, who I think she sang, I can see clearly now. Um, and one is, I can't think of an analogy, but one is like misty, misty, misty. Where are you between misty and really clear?
In terms of what I want to do next,
Yeah, in terms of what you're doing, what you're up to.
um, I would say it's definitely not one. I would say maybe I'm sort of somewhere around six,
Okay.
and could use this session to get me up to an eight or a nine, for example.
And what would it mean to you to get up to an eight or a nine?
Um, I think just in the way that things can sort of move in waves, and I think it would just it would mean um, a sort of a renewed focus and clarity on where I'm going, um, and um, perhaps sort of just a little bit of a boost in terms of my own conviction that I'm going somewhere with it, I
Okay.
guess.
Okay.
Because the plan B has always been that, I can sort of this could turn into sort of, just 2 years out of the mainstream classroom and explore something different, and actually if it's not working or if there are financial imperatives that dictate, I can just go back into the classroom and get a job as a teacher. But I don't really want to do that. So I think um, I want to, but the less I feel convinced about where I'm going with the coaching, the more the temptation will be to say, oh, do you know what? Actually, there's a teaching job there. I can do that. I'll just take that,
Yeah.
which would be fine. But I'm nowhere near ready to sort of, go back to that sort of safety net.
Okay. So no pressure, but this could be part of the jigsaw that keeps you out of school and into this self-employment world.
Um, yeah, I just another little kind of boost on the journey.
Okay, cool, fine. All right. Well, should we get into the detail of all of this? Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I want to start with, or to be helpful to start with what you're already doing. So you've talked about contacting 15 schools to get going with building those relationships. So that's one thing that you've put in place. What else have you put in place in terms of work towards client acquisition?
I guess I am the coaching contract that I've got at my local school. I'm putting a huge amount of effort into making sure that I'm delivering a really high quality product there with that coaching, because obviously, well, I'm fairly sure that a lot of this, a lot of business can come about through referral, and through delivering a good job on a certain kind of piece of work. So that's another thing that I'm doing there. Um, I've contacted those schools. As you said, I'm using my own network of friends and ex-colleagues, having worked as a teacher locally for the last 20 years. So I'd say as well as some formal, I guess you would, in inverted commas, formal sort of approaches to schools. I'm also sort of, just talking to friends, colleagues, ex-colleagues who are in a variety of different schools and sort of trying to, I guess there was a phrase that I came across in the Jenny Rogers book, Setting Up Your Own Coaching Business, which is a really key one about seeing everything from a buyer's perspective. So I've got friends who are now assistant heads, deputy heads, and some of those people will be the people giving the green light to this sort of thing. So I'm sort of talking to them, about what's going on in their schools and um, why they might either, say yes or no to some coaching. And actually, the reassuring thing is that there's a lot of coaching already going on in a lot of these schools. So then I guess the next question is, well, um, uh, what could I offer that they're not already sort of doing?
Okay, and we'll come back to that, and that's a really important thing. I mean, and the first thing I really want to say, and I should have said this before, but this is something to be really pleased about, isn't it? In your first year, you've got a substantial coaching contract. How did it feel when that came in?
Oh, it was very, very exciting. Yeah, it was a real moment actually. There's been one or two moments already along the journey where I've sort of said to myself, if nothing else, and if this doesn't go sort of as far as I'd like it to go, I will always kind of treasure those moments because they felt like real kind of magic moments and achievements. To sort of, I think there were. I wasn't it sort of wasn't entirely clear with this contract um, whether it was going to be paid or not, because I felt like my approach had hinted at um, it possibly being sort of a helping each other out type arrangement. But when I was asked for sort of cost effectively and then put together a proposal and then had that accepted. That was brilliant, because it was the first time probably, yeah, the first time as someone working sort of for yourself,
Yeah.
that had ever happened for me, as opposed to just, trogging into a school kind of, day after day for a few years, and being paid on payroll. It was very exciting. So yeah, it was yeah, a real moment.
Okay. So yeah, and let's treasure that, right? So that you have gone from PAYE to self-employed and generated a client that is paying you. What did you draw on? What strengths did you draw on to be able to do that?
Um, I, I think I probably at the heart of it, I suppose, it is a real conviction about the benefits of coaching, and I guess a confidence that that I'm a good coach and that this is something which is I'm suited to, something which I've already worked hard towards, um, both with the course last year, but also, just realizing that I've been working on a lot of these skills, maybe without always realizing it, over the course of a number of 20 years teaching already. So I guess um, I the strengths I drew on to get that contract were conviction about coaching being beneficial and being something that I could um, use to serve others, to help others, ultimately for them to use then in the interest of creating better outcomes for for students, for pupils in schools. Um, I also think that I'm pretty organized, and I always like to have a clarity about kind of where I'm going with something. And I think this contract came about um, also via good organization in that I'd put together my own website, and I'd worked hard and researched the sort of coaching packages I was going to offer, so that I guess when this head uh, looked at my website, he would have seen something hopefully which was convincing and clear and looked good, and essentially gave him confidence in the product that he was going to be buying. Um, I think also I drew on a strength of essentially good, good people skills. I think uh, what's really nice is now looking back over the last 20 years of teaching is that there aren't many people who I feel uncomfortable sort of reaching out to, um, uh, if any, sort of because we sort of haven't got on in our sort of whatever teaching roles or contexts we've had. I think generally um, it's I feel confident, sort of reaching out with so many different people I've worked with, knowing that actually we had good relationships that I generally uh, sort of gave a decent account of myself. And so I guess that's a sort of that's a strength as well. And with reaching out to schools, I found that rather than I wanted to have a default email where it's just like this is the default email, this is what I'm going to write to every school, and then but actually as it's happened, I found that I've with each school, that's not quite right. Actually, I want to just tweak that one, and so I've ended up writing almost a sort of bespoke email for each school, which is it's probably as long as you can. It's not going to work on a massive scale, but I guess it's probably the right thing to do, really, in the same way that if you're applying for a job, you're going to try and make sure you tailor your job application to the school you're applying for, so that they feel that actually this person really wants to come and work here because they've mentioned this school and our ethos. So I guess I could probably do a little bit more of that to be potentially take that a little bit further. But I would say to go back to your question, I would say that's been another strength that I've drawn on um, is using those people skills, being able to communicate via uh, emails as well, which is, I guess that's a slightly separate point, but be able to sort of um, put across uh, put myself across well via emails. That's that sort of thing.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And so that we don't lose any of all of that rich stuff you said, and a couple of things I wanted to say. Firstly, on that last point about emails and writing like bespoke emails, that's super, super important. And I'd really encourage you to have an email templates folder so that you do have, if you like, a standard introductory email, but they always get tailored. They always, always, always get tailored. And you'll find, I mean, I've got hundreds and hundreds of emails of all those different templates, but nothing ever just gets copied and pasted. It always gets copied. That will save you a lot of time, but it will also mean that you are going to be doing a personalized approach. So that's a little thing. In terms of all of those other things that you mentioned, I'd really encourage you to look at your processes and think, okay, how clear, like what you've shown to this head and this school that you can do really well in terms of your organization, your communication, your commitment to coaching, your care about coaching, does that come across equally well to those people who don't know you? If you think about those other emails of people who you're connecting with who you don't yet know, is that message coming out clearly enough? Are you able to articulate that clearly enough? Are there other ways that you can articulate that? I'm not suggesting you answer it now, but I think that's a little bit of work to think about because you did have some success and they bought into you for these reasons or other reasons. It's really good to reflect on that. And is that okay? Is that useful?
Yeah, really useful. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay, so we've got this one thing. You've got clients you've acquired. You've got a process and some qualities to help acquire those clients. You've got uh, looking for new clients, contacting schools. You've also got keeping in touch with all of your network, and you've got seeing things from a buyer's perspective. Anything else? Anything else on the list that you've done? Oh, and you've got a website as well, and a name and flyer. It's quite a lot, isn't it?
yeah. In fact, I was just I should have written down. I should have asked you to pause just for 1 second.
Yeah, do
That,
that.
that kind of thought you gave me just now because I've still been thinking about it while you've been talking, which was just to essentially how can I get across to I guess prospective clients, I guess, the strengths that I have shown during this first coaching contract, basically. Yeah. Right. So your question was anything else, basically, wasn't it? Was your
Yeah,
question?
yeah. Anything else that you already put in place?
Not that comes to mind at the moment, no.
Okay, okay. So, well, let's look at some other things then. So you talked about wanting to do a really good job for this particular school, and because you talked about referrals, and referrals are going to be helpful. So tell me, what's your end of year strategy? If you think about it, you get to the end of this year, this contract, how are you going to like ethically be able to make this contract mean something to you for your growing business?
Um, Actually, just one other thing I thought of as you were asking that is that so I sort of get almost a bit of a choice when I get to the school in terms of where I wait before a coaching session, and I found that it can be useful to wait in the main staff room,
Yeah.
which is also with my sort of red lanyard, the sort of the and a school's safeguarding policy is also kind of works for the school as well, because then I can be sort of available there and then have those off the cuff conversations with people. Like, oh, hello, who are you, and you know, what are you doing? Which I guess in a way is another possible sort of referral, just. Um, but then to answer your main question there, what am I going to do at the end of this? I guess the obvious thing is testimonials is probably the first easiest answer, I guess. And to make sure that I'm asking my four coaches for testimonials and that they are going up on the website. Uh, I guess possibly with that, if I have some email addresses of schools who I've contacted once, but might want to prompt with a little bit of a kind of, um, a reminder that I'm here if they're interested. It could be a little kind of almost mail shot type email of like, oh, by the way, I've just finished this coaching program and this is what these coaches said, because it's fresh information then, isn't it? And it
Yeah.
just brings it to the fore. So I guess there's that. Something that I've already done to a small extent, but which I think I would do to a greater extent is so this school is part of a relatively large trust. So the obvious thing is to talk to the head, who is in this case the sponsor, and he's already given me some really positive feedback about how the coaching is going and the feedback that he's had from the coachees. So it would be talking to him and saying, are there any other heads that you know of in the trust who might be looking for coaching? Because he then is an ideal advocate, assuming that it's all gone well for me. So I guess that's an obvious thing to do. Yeah. Um, And this is slightly separate to this particular question, but the at some point the idea of using socials a bit more. So I'm on LinkedIn, and but the idea of just generating some kind of weekly or fortnightly content, whether it's sort of a short video or something, a vlog or something. That's sort of been on my list as something to come to at the right time at some point. I guess there's probably a little bit of uncertainty in my mind about maybe what I would do and wanting to make sure I got that right. Uh, but yeah, that's sort of an answer to a previous question. But yeah, I think
Okay.
I've probably rambled for long enough.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to not miss all the threads. So I'll say something about LinkedIn in a moment. Testimonials, fab idea, and if it's possible, a video testimonial is really good for you if your website can cope with it.
Yeah.
And I tend to send out people I can send it to you. I tend to send out a little brief of like technically how to do it and how to, what to say. Because as you know, lots of people are nervous about doing these type of things. But if you can get a 30 to 60-second video, I love coaching for Simon because it's fab. I think that can
Yeah.
make a really big difference.
Yeah.
Uh, and in terms of posting that stuff on LinkedIn, there's two schools of thoughts about it. Well, most people on LinkedIn post, "Oh, I had wonderful feedback from another client, and look at this, and it all looks great." But it doesn't really add value to anyone else. All it says is, "Look at me." So I think it's great and it's perfect on your website and it's appropriate on your website. And I think that in LinkedIn, it's a little bit like noise. Whereas, so I think for LinkedIn, if you are going to start posting, doing something that, what was that expression you used before? Think from the buyer's perspective. What does someone want to read? How can you help someone? How is, articles, how is coaching working in education? Or what do we notice? What topics are people in education bringing? Or articles, blogs, that type of thing. It's so much richer than just sharing, happy client type of
Mhm,
stories.
mhm, mhm.
And most marketers don't agree with me, by the way. Most mark most marketers say, yeah, just post, just you get a lovely testimonial, shove it out. That's great, it's fab. So, take what I say with a pinch of salt. I'm a bit, I think I'm a bit old-fashioned in that context. Lots and lots of people believe the power of the client testimonial on socials. We do it a little bit, but I'm not convinced at all.
Yeah. I mean, LinkedIn and other social media, it's just there's so much noise, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's just I find it a little bit overwhelming because you just go on there and it's just within minutes I sort of want to switch it off.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, everyone's just shouting at me, just go away.
Yeah, I know, and yeah, we want to add, and we want to not add to that, but we want to add something of interest. I mean, a separate LinkedIn conversation, either with me or with, I mean, if you're really interested in LinkedIn and you think it's something of importance, I I did some LinkedIn training with someone who I really advocate and I really trust, and it was a reasonably priced 1 day course, and it was really valuable, and it was also, I think, would tie into both yours and my type of ethics around this, not about the hard sell, not about how many followers you can get, but about how you can use it and still be a decent person. So happy to talk about that another time.
Hmm. Right.
One other thread you mentioned was your head, your sponsor being also part of a trust and him and referrals to other heads. Was your plan to ask him to give you names or for him to proactively go to other heads and say, here's our coach? That was such a leading question, by the way. That was not a coaching question at all.
Um, I guess so. Interestingly, so this existing contract came about not through me directly emailing this head, but through me emailing a different contact within the trust, who then I think just and like all of these things, there's always an element of luck, and I think there might have been an element of luck and timing in this one because I think he just happened he has a role across the whole trust, and happened to know that this particular head was on the lookout for some coaching. That's my understanding of the sort of the circumstances, and so. Um, I mean, heads are super busy, right? So that I'm not about to ask a head to go and start doing some work for him because they won't. Because
Yeah.
why would they? It's not in their interests. But it's probably more a question of saying, oh, you know, do you, do you happen to know if any other heads are looking for coaching? And then after that, the next best approach would be probably really, and I've already got his permission to do this, is for me then to do the work and to email other heads and but to use his name and that context to say, oh, I've just done this in this school in your trust with this person and with these people went really well. This was the feedback, from him. Um, are you interested? Are you in a position where you're looking for any coaching within your school?
Okay. Okay. Fab. Well, don't write off the possibility that a busy head might not help you out. It's a one-liner, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, and I agree. I think that there's something about knowing that you have permission to use their name. I think that makes a really big difference. And of course, there's integrity with that, but also just a one-liner to the network of heads might say, I've been working with Simon, recommend him as a coach. Thought you'd be interested. Is all that is needed. I think if you,
Mhm.
if you put it something simple in front of him to say that any chance you can send this one liner out,
Yeah,
you never know. I mean, the
true.
worst is he can say no and never talk to you again. But let's think. Let's think after that. Okay. And what about the idea of getting into the organization, like a network meeting or coming along and a bit of a show and tell when the heads get together in those very busy meetings.
As in within this trust, you mean?
Well, if you're focusing on this trust, yeah.
Um, yeah, I hadn't thought about that really. As in just sort of what, inviting myself along to a particular type of networking meeting. Do you mean that
Yeah,
sort of thing?
yeah. I mean, it depends on how the setup of the cluster is, but the idea of something like, you know, uh, do you have heads gatherings? Either just meetings, or do they have like learning and development meetings and presentation meetings and meetings when they bring along speakers and that type of thing? If there is an opportunity when all the heads get together or all of the deputy heads or whoever get together, can you come along and do a 20-minute on benefits of coaching, that type of
Mm.
thing.
Mm.
I've seen that work really well from small mats to like big organizations because they're often looking for recommended providers and
Yeah.
b content for these type of meetings.
Okay. So they might be looking for content, as in someone just not exactly a keynote speaker, but in a very small way, as someone to come along with some input, with some content to sort
Yeah.
of like share something which could be the start of a discussion, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I mean, that it will be, they'll have someone on the new safeguarding framework and someone on the EF's latest bit of research on whatever, and something on, everyone's talking about adaptive teaching at the moment instead of differentiate, and those type of things.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
idea that, and it might be heads, it might be deputies, but I think as a sales point, the idea of knowing that if your target audience meets in a group in some capacity, then maybe you can get in there.
yeah. No, that's a really good point.
Okay.
Great.
Right. So we're following up some threads, some things that you were saying about your existing client, but then also a little bit on the socials, and you've got some thoughts a little bit about potential um, news sources. Anything else? Anything else we want to put on the table?
In terms of
Like in terms of things, either things that you want to do or things that maybe you've got bubbling away in the pending pile.
Um, I guess I mentioned this, I think, before in one of our sessions, but the idea of putting together something that I could offer in an inset slot in a school, um, where for a school that, let's say, for example, a school that doesn't really know much about coaching yet, or isn't on that, which I think there aren't very many of anymore. I think because schools are generally up with that sort of thing, but something where I might go along and fill in a half an hour or an hour slot as a kind of introduction to coaching, which again helps to sort of just me to have a presence. Um, I guess in a way, it depends exactly who my audience is. Because there will be nothing to stop an individual teacher potentially sort of coming to me and saying I'd like a few coaching sessions myself. But I think that's that's less likely because I think generally, teachers aren't going to have all that spare cash to spend on that sort of thing. It's probably going to be a luxury item, really. Um, and whereas schools will have a budget, in an ideal world, they'll have a budget for this sort of thing, which however tight that budget might be. And I guess it's bound to be more piecemeal if you've got individual teachers, one or two teachers individually. So I guess if I go along to a school and do some inset, am I largely targeting the audience of the teachers themselves, and therefore is that not hugely effective for me? Whereas to your point, if I go along to a networking meeting of head teachers or deputy heads, is that much better targeted effort because those are the people who might then give me a contract to coach four aspiring senior leaders across an academic year, which at a stroke will be just a better piece of business, I suppose, for me.
Okay. Well, and there's nothing stopping you doing both, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. 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 So if you were going to do an inset, if you got an invitation to do, in a Surrey school inset intro to coaching in schools, what would you be looking, what would be the objective? Like where would you like everyone to be at the end of a session with you?
Um, I suppose depending on the school and what they already know about coaching, uh, sort of option A would be an inset whereby by the end you want people to know more about the benefits of coaching, to be more likely to go away and just explore it further, either possibly be confident enough to do a bit of peer coaching, so to understand how they might um, do that. Also, perhaps understand how they might apply coaching philosophy um, to the different areas of their own role and responsibility. Because it can be applied. You can apply coaching philosophy in a classroom, right? With kids, you can apply coaching philosophy when you are line managing someone. If you're managing a team, you can do that in lots of different ways. So I guess the aims would be for that inset would be to so that the attendees can go away with a better understanding of what coaching is, how you do it, and feeling more confident than they did at the start that they could go away and start doing a bit of this or more motivated to go and find out more.
Okay. So at the end of that inset, as you know, every single teacher, you know what they want at the end of an inset, don't you?
Coffee and biscuits.
Well, apart from that, yeah, or not to have been there, yeah.
At the end of it, well, basically, they really want time to go away and just prep their lessons and stuff, and not have to waste time listening to someone who's not relevant to them.
Okay, so all right, so you need to make it good, right? Yeah, yeah. My wife could say that. She says whenever she sits in an inset, all she thinks of, she's in one today, all she thinks of is like, is this better than the planning that I could be doing right now? Okay.
Exactly.
Your level of confidence that you can make it a good inset?
Um, Reasonably high, I think. Yeah, I think reasonably high. I think once you can do a little bit of entertaining of people and actually making them sort of just engaged and entertained, then hopefully those thoughts quickly disappear of like, I would prefer to be marking books
Yeah,
because at least they're enjoying themselves. So I think, in the same way that you plan a lesson to sort of engage and entertain and inform students, I'd be quite excited about, I think it'd be quite fun to do that.
fab. And I have to say, I mean, we obviously do loads of inset, and I've got lots of resources, so I can always help you out. When you've done your planning, anything to top it up, of course.
Yeah.
For those type of things. All right, so that's I can see a benefit for the school. Let's get Simon in here, do a bit of coach training. He'll enthuse and entertain, and also then maybe colleagues will start using coaching skills a bit in the classroom or with their colleagues. What about for river coaching? Where's the benefit for you?
I suppose it's just getting out there, um, brand awareness, basically. It's so people go, oh, that guy was from River Coaching, and you've got a big audience there. You've got a lot of people. It only takes a couple of them to then come back to you and sort of say, oh, actually, can I just, I'd like a bit of coaching. So you're putting your name out there, which in front of lots of people all at once. As long as you do a good job, you're there live with people. It's not a two-dimensional email or something. You've been given half an hour or 60 minutes, in front of people live. So you've got a great opportunity to make an impression. Um, I guess as well, if you've got senior leaders there who both see what you can do and also see hopefully the positive impact that you have on the staff in front of you, that could then be lead on to, follow up business from there because they see actually we weren't quite sure where we might go with establishing a coaching culture in this school, but this guy seems to know what he's talking about. Let's sort of see if he'll do a bit more for us.
Okay, fine. And I mean, and I agree. I think that like if you teach anything, it gives you credibility. I teach coaching skills because I can coach, right? So that will really help. I think what you could do, which we don't do enough of, is because primarily we're about training. We don't follow up our training with, by the way, we can offer you one-to-one coaching. And I think that you'd need to do that. You need to be really clear. Yes, I'm helping. I'm running an inset to teach coaching skills, but also this is my coaching package. This is, if you want coaching, I'm here and I'm available for that. That's really important. And I'd encourage you to have a couple of inset options, maybe three, full day, half day, 90 minute. Don't nothing less than 90 minutes. And try and do it in 45 or 60 minutes is beyond painful. Because it undervalues it. A head teacher once said to me, he said, right, can you come and do an inset for us? He said, you can have an hour. He said, for coaching. If you want to do mentoring as well, you can have an hour and a half. Yeah, I didn't go. So be a bit strict of like, actually, if you're going to make it any value, minimum 90 minutes.
Okay.
So, a wide-ranging discussion we've had today. We hopefully focused on this next step idea that you want after your first client acquisition, which is a great achievement. Tell me a summary of what you've taken away from today.
Um, yeah, I think probably with this kind of sort of mentoring slash coaching sort of session we've had, it's been really good to get lots of ideas from you, as well as me talking through kind of where I'm at and what my ideas are, and just yeah, lots of ideas as to lots of options as to what I could sort of do next. Um, and I guess it's brought all of that back into the forefront of my mind. I guess just on that last point, actually, just that's an interesting one that I probably hadn't quite thought of, in terms of the offering the inset, in terms of making it a day or a half day or a minimum 90 minutes. I guess as a teacher, I'm used to inset days generally being an hour of this, an hour of that sort of thing. So that just sort of was good to switch my thinking on that a little bit. Um, yeah, I think it's probably a testament that I've written down so much. There were lots and lots of ideas there to take away and then sort of explore the potential of.
Great. Right. And I noticed you scribbling away quite a lot, and I hope that I sort of shared enough, not too much. What do you need to do to turn everything you've scribbled down into like substantial activities?
Probably just add things to my very long to-do list, or although actually to be fair, back on my sort of coaching book, I've got this almost this one never-ending to-do list, but it's on about sort of page 3 or 4. But reassuringly, almost everything on page 1 and 2, has been crossed off. So like it's quite a nice feeling sort of looking at, oh, look at all those things that I've done already. So it's probably about me putting aside a bit of time and saying, okay, got all these ideas now, and then deciding what I feel are the right, say, three things to do next,
Yes.
and then say, right, okay, let's get this done by the end of November. Let's get these two things done by Christmas. So it's probably just at the moment, all the ideas are kind of here. They're sort of all circulating in orbit, and it's waiting for them to settle, and then me to go, yep, that one, and that one. Let's go.
Well, thank you. Thank you for getting stuck in. And you wanted clarity, didn't you? You wanted to get to 10 o'clock and feel clear on some next steps. So, and you said six and you were pushing for an eight. So let's go back to the numbers. How would you rate it now?
It's interesting. I think maybe I've got something. I can see that the clarity um, is kind of there, and but might not necessarily have happened yet. But what I've got instead, I think, is maybe um, a real richness of ideas now right at the forefront of my mind. Um, and I think the clarity will come, as I said, kind of when when I can sort of just those ideas all settle, and I sort of then realize, yes, actually, those are the three things that I think I should do next. But also, I guess that reassurance that once I've done those three things, um, there's at least three more things which might come after that. Do you know what I mean? So that kind of gives me that kind of reassurance and confidence of just like, right, there's loads more things I can do. Um, the clarity will come maybe sort of tomorrow or next week once I've sort of realized what are the three things that I want to really work on now and do next. Um, so yeah, I would say that if it was ambitious to get that clarity up to eight within an hour, I would say that I'm confident that now that clarity will come sort of, once I've just um, chosen what to do next, basically.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think you're right there. I mean, there's lots of things bubbling away, aren't there, that we could have scratched into, but so there's definitely more to come. Well, thank you so much for getting stuck in, and A for working hard, but B also for like really committing to this. And I've said this to you before that you're an unusual person in that you have already ring-fenced time. You're not trying to do this. On a Saturday morning or on a Sunday night or squeezing it in, by going part-time and committing to this in this way. It doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees you've got time to have a go at it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that relates a lot to your commitment. How do you feel now, Simon? How do you feel at the end of this session?
Well, yeah, firstly, thank you, Charlie, so much. It's been really, really useful to have a kind of dedicated, dedicated slot to exploring, where I might go next with this. And yeah, it's sort of I feel energized and sort of yeah, sort of excited again about sort of about what I do next. And it's nice just to I think the mentoring approach I think really helps because it rather than sort of yeah, just having you being able to say, actually, you should try this, or you could try this. I think that sort of session works for me at this stage. I think, and it's a nice combination of me sort of using uh, uh, dredging my mind and brain for what I want to do, plus some really lots of really useful inputs from you as well. So yeah, feel energized and enthused.
Good. Oh, I'm really pleased. Well, thank you, and thank you for getting stuck in. And good luck with it. I hope it goes really well. And next time we chat, we're really looking forward to hearing how you got on with it all.
Awesome, lovely. Thanks, Charlie.
All right then. Thanks, Simon.
Cheers. Bye bye.